The military-industrial complex. This has been one of the biggest criticisms of the United States going back many, many decades. Originally, I believe it was Ike Eisenhower who gave the initial warning about it taking over and wielding too much power in society. You know, aside from the fact that he's true, what he says is true, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Generally speaking, people see the military-industrial complex as something that the country did because it's greedy. We continually go to war because it makes money for the defense industry. And while that's certainly true, it doesn't tell the whole story. It doesn't give you the full complexity of the situation. I like to trace most of it back to a phenomenon in capitalism called the tendency of the rate of profit to fall. It was Thomas Piketty who wrote Capital in the 21st Century, a bourgeois economist who essentially proved Marxist theory to be true and showed that the tendency of the rate of profit to fall has been consistent over more than one century, but then proceeded to say Marxist theory was wrong because Marx, like any good bourgeois academic would do. So, capitalism is always in a position where it has difficulty keeping up its profitability. And one of those things that it has to do is the neoliberal era. They have to go and destroy unions. They have to move jobs overseas for a cheaper and cheaper pool of labor, and then export capital while they're at it. This is not something they choose to do because they want to make more money. It's something they have to do by the very nature of capitalism itself. There's always a great leap in how companies and in capitalism behaves when it reaches a certain problem. And one of that is profitability. That's one of the sources of economic crisis. Now, when it finds a solution, it has to make production cheaper. And it's going to continually go throughout finding newer and newer ways to do that. Well, one of the ways that you used to do that was part of the competition with the Soviet Union. Well, that's gone. Then as there was a kind of recovery in the, say, early to mid-90s, then the problem became, well, now rates of profit are starting to go down again. So they signed NAFTA to send jobs to Mexico and whatnot. Then later on, that wasn't even enough. And then they started opening up into China. And now they're looking for that new frontier, which is probably now going to be Africa. My point is that the rate of profit continues to fall, the tendency of it. So they have to keep doing something in order to make things cheaper. One more profitable, and that lowering the cost of production, and that's one of the reasons why there's a downward pressure on workers' wages. Now, here's another thing that happens. A lot of people will point out to planned obsolescence, that they deliberately make things cheap and a piece of crap in order for it to break, and then you have to buy a new one sooner, even if it is cheaper than it previously was. Many of those things, of these items, are now cheaper today than they were before. Obviously, we live in a higher material living standard than our parents do, and higher than our grandparents did. Part of that process is making more of these commodities available to us to purchase. They need us to purchase them now. And not only that, in order to keep up that rate of profit, we have to keep buying them. Things got cheaper, not so that they would break more easily, but because they were cheaper to produce. And if one capitalist does it, they all have to do it, relatively speaking, if they want to keep up with the competition. If somebody starts underselling you like mad, you have to do something, you're going to go out of business. In other words, they all have to do it. And they all had to make production cheaper based on the tendency of the rate of profit to fall. So it's not like a conspiracy. They just decided, hey, let's make everything cheap so that we had to buy more. It was something out of necessity that they had to do. It's not a conspiracy. It's just an internal contradiction of capitalism itself. We don't need to start looking for rightist and quasi-rightist ideas of conspiracy theories about why the system is bad or why the system is broken, because that's mainly what they do, is just look for excuses. Remember, it's never really capitalism that's wrong. It's always some greedy capitalist does something by sending jobs overseas, or some greedy capitalist just makes things cheaper. It makes things really cheap so that they break and you have to buy more of them. It's not. It's an internal logic of the system itself. And that's one of the problems with a lot of the right-wing views, is that they cannot internally analyze their own system and see that failure. So, what does this have to do with the military-industrial complex? As I said, one cannot build up capital until a certain amount of capital has been destroyed. That's the basis for economic crisis. Factories go out of business, workers get laid off, constant capital sits around, rusts, and gets thrown out until the economy starts going again, and they reinvest in factories, reinvest in machinery, then hire workers again. They build back capital after it's been destroyed. The thing is, the United States got used to having a beast of a military economy. And one of the advantages in terms of, at least for profitability, I would say not for humanity, of having a military economy is that tendency in the rate of profit to fall is far less pronounced. Why? Because when the military uses something, it's gone. You drop a bomb, it's gone. Capital has been destroyed, and you have to buy another one. There is no, how long will this bomb last until it's no good anymore, and then we have to go get another one. It's instantly destroyed. You have to go get another one. Once a bullet's fired, it's gone. You have to immediately go out and buy more of them, have more of them produced. And in fact, I think a lot of Marxist economists would agree that the military-industrial complex has been such a great engine of the U.S. economy because it can keep the rate up. Because, boom, destroy, gone. But people confuse this. They think they just go out and then destroy that capital, drop that bomb, fire that bullet, just so they can make money. And then buy another one. And it's just essentially weapons manufacturers leeching off of the government just to make money. Well, it's not that simple. You see, the defense industry has gotten so large in the United States that it is too big to fail. There is now so many people dependent on it for a job, so many politicians dependent on it as a way of funding their campaigns. The economy needs it. Wall Street needs it so badly that they have to keep giving them money. The system doesn't go to war just because it wants to make money. It now has to use those bombs in order for the economy not to go into crisis. What do you think would happen if the United States dropped all of its military endeavors in one day? Wall Street would crash. And that's the point here. It isn't just they want to destroy things because it makes money. It's now they have to destroy things because it makes money. Because it's such a large portion of the U.S. economy. They're now dependent on it. They couldn't stop if they wanted to. And, well, they don't. Now, imperialism is a stage of capitalism that requires military conquest, for the most part. This happens due to the monopolization of capital in the imperialist core. So you see this sudden need to build bombs out of necessity because of there being a military-industrial complex perfectly complements the need to forcibly expand capitals worldwide. So you see how it all weaves together in the contradictions of the system itself, and that it creates its own necessity. The importance here is that it needs to do that. It is not something it just arbitrarily decided to do. It is something that it has to do and couldn't stop if it wanted. Now that's a very superficial look at it. Obviously, it's even more complicated when you go down deeper and you start understanding more aspects of production and expansion, etc. But this should be enough to help you better understand why the United States does what it does. It is not just out there to make money for the weapons industry. It needs the weapon industry to be profitable. It needs that profitability to be there in order to expand its own spheres of influence, access to markets, resources, etc. So when, as I said, I think it was Eisenhower who warned about the military-industrial complex, that the system may become addicted to military means. This may have been what it was that he was talking about. And obviously it's a warning that society didn't follow. They happened to just very happily go along with it. Well, now, even if capitalism wanted to change, it would require a massive economic planning aspect, massive economic planning effort in order to just get away from its own weapons industry heroin, let's just say. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.